If you want talk, games, and fun all rolled into one, well, you've come to the right place. This is The Game Show, where host Bradley Clarke and his special guests talk about the world of television game and competition shows. But Bradley's guests aren't here to just talk. They came to play a game as well. What will today's topic be? What game does Bradley have planned? There's only one way to find out.
It's time to start the show.
You heard the man. Welcome to The Game Show. And here's your host, the Bradster himself, Bradley Clarke.
You heard right. It's time to start the show. Thank you as always, Austin Angelo. I'm Bradley Clarke, and welcome to another episode of The Game Show, the talk show all about the world of television game and competition shows. Now, ever since I started The Game Show, I've been waiting for the day where an episode would center around a specific game show genre that has been one of the most successful in television history. Sure, you have your big money quiz shows and your celebrity panel shows, which both are monumental game show genres and have been successful for many years. But this game show genre in particular literally defined a generation and influenced pop culture as a whole. The game shows that are included in this genre were beloved by many, and whether you were watching contestants putting together a monkey, picking a giant nose, climbing a colorful mountain, rummaging through a house, or entering a video game, you knew it was going to be a fun half hour of television. I am, of course, talking about the ever-popular Nickelodeon game shows. Beginning in the mid-'80s and continuing throughout the '90s, Nickelodeon game shows took children's television by storm. Up until this point, kids were barely featured on game shows. But thanks to shows like Double Dare, Legends of the Hidden Temple, and Guts, the young minds of America were able to show off their mental and physical abilities in order to win cool prizes like ring pops, moon shoes, Skechers sneakers, and a trip to space camp. Ever since I was about 8 years old when I was first introduced to the game shows Nickelodeon produced for us millennials, I was hooked. Although Nick Gas, the channel that would air reruns of these shows, is no longer in existence, you can still catch me watching episodes of them online. And to this day, one of my favorite Nickelodeon game shows is this one. A show in which the kids at home watching were definitely envious of the in-studio contestants.
Behind this door is the Video Zone, a place between our world and the video dimension. Waiting to challenge you for control of the Video Zone is one of the game wizards. Is it Murloc, Scorsha, or Mongo? These two teams will compete for the right to enter the Video Zone and face that Game Wizards challenge. Who will it be? Find out today on Nick Arcade. And now, here he is, our very own robo-host, Phil
Welcome to Nickelodeon Arcade, where your video savvy and video game skills are put to the ultimate test.
Yes, it's Nick Arcade, the game show that basically satisfied every kid's dream because you could actually win real prizes for playing video games on television. Plus, the winning team got to enter the Video Zone, where they became players inside an actual video game. How cool is that? Nick Arcade was hosted by the always upbeat and energetic Phil Moore. And guess who's on the line with me now to talk about the show, as well as the Nickelodeon game show dynasty? It's none other than Mr. Jolly Joystick himself, Mikey's best friend, Phil Moore. Phil, welcome to the game show.
Who could it be? It's Phil Moore talking to Bradley.
That is fantastic.
I wrote an original chart-busting ditty just for you. How about that?
You are so kind.
So how's it going?
I'm doing great now that I'm talking to you. You know, I've been waiting forever to do an episode of the game show based on a Nickelodeon game show, and it is such a thrill to have you be the first one that gets to be my guest for one of these.
Oh, look at that. Well, I appreciate it being on, man. I'm excited about it, and I'm glad to be the first.
I've got to tell you, I am so excited to have you on the show, but do you know who else is excited that you're on the game show today? My 10-year-old self that's trapped inside of me. If I knew 10 years ago when I was watching Nick Arcade that I would one day be talking with you about the show, I would have thought I was crazy. But I'm glad crazy things happen because it is such a treat to share the airways with you for this episode, Phil.
All right, well, look, I mean, wealth of Nick Arcade knowledge, and what I don't know, I've asked other people. So,
if you don't know something, maybe I'll know it, so we'll share the knowledge along the way.
All right, cool.
All right, so I want to start off by talking about how last year, 2017, was the 25th anniversary of Nick Arcade. Can you believe it's been 25 years?
You know what? No. And it's funny because I had to be reminded of it. I absolutely wasn't aware. I had no idea. It snuck up on me. And as a matter of fact, once someone told me, I ended up contacting James Bethea and Karim Metcalf, the two guys that created the show, created the programming and made the video zone work, the whole 9 yards, and they weren't even aware of it either, which I think is a testament to kind of like what you were doing and like other people out there who are fans of my show and other shows. We thought it was kind of a done thing, and we kind of like went on. We had no idea that such a devotion would still linger fondly in people's hearts and minds after all of these years. You know, the 90s were an incredible time just in general, and it was literally the most amazing period of time to be working at Nickelodeon. There's never been a time before it. There's never been a time since it. And it was like a decade of thunder, man. And for those of us who were fortunate enough to be a part of it, and for those who grew up, because the funny thing that happens now is, now that everybody's all grown up, I do make appearances at Comic-Cons and gaming expos and stuff like that. And sometimes they come up with their kids, and sometimes the grown-ups are disappointed that there's nothing that cool on TV now. So it was an amazing time, the 90s. Viva la 90s, man. They were the best decade ever.
I was born in 97, but I grew up with this show because of Nick Gass and all the reruns and just being able to enjoy these shows that were on 10 years before I was born. It's so great that my generation, the later millennials, got to appreciate these shows.
You still got it. Yeah, that's funny because there's a line where people have no idea about any of these shows. They don't know about Double Dare, Guts, Legends of the Hidden Temple, nothing. And then there's a group of millennials that were like you. They saw it when they started rerunning it on Gas and stuff. So they are just as aware of it as the 32-year-olds that watched it when it was prime and on TV. But like I said, it was an interesting era to be in. It was a plan that was conceived by the Nickelodeon president at the time, Geraldine Laybourne. And she was just open to bringing in whoever had the creative mind to fit this broad idea. And that's the thing that was interesting. It was an idea, network for kids, where they didn't talk down to kids. And it's funny because about a month ago, I was having lunch, seriously, with Mark Summers. We know each other, and from time to time we get together. And we were talking about how it is amazing that Nickelodeon was around because we may not have ever really gotten a job doing that if it weren't for Nickelodeon. Because regular network television and even cool shows that were on the Disney Channel, that was the perfect kids, the people whose hair was great and they never made a mistake and they didn't get loud and they didn't do anything considered embarrassing unless it was in the script of the show. But you come along with Nick Arcade and then you have Mark Summers who will get in the slime with the people. You got somebody like Michael Malley who used to always go, "Why are you always screaming at the kids?" And you got me who breaks into my songs and all of the antics that I did. And, there wasn't really a place for us other than Nickelodeon. And it was fortunate that Nickelodeon was around and was looking for us. It was a place where people who didn't fit the norm had a place to go. And then what they knew was that most of the audience was comprised of people with entirely unique and different personalities. And so you have us as hosts on these shows, and then the people that were watching the show saw somebody that kind of reminds them of them, whether it was us as the adults. I call us the five adults: Kurt Fogg, Summer Sanders, Michael Malley, Mark Summers, and myself. And then everybody else on the show was basically kids for the most part. And it was like a place for all of us to hang out.
Well, it was great that Nickelodeon didn't go with the standard game show host. I mean, I'm a student of game shows, and I love the classic game shows, and all those classic hosts are my idols. But with Nickelodeon and all their shows, as you were saying, you had the people that you wouldn't see as the typical game show hosts, and especially how the games were designed and the outfits that were worn. Like, you would wear these bright shirts and jeans. Kirk Fogg was wearing cargo shorts for Legends of the Hidden Temple. Mark Summers,
he wears suits and ties to go play in slime. Like,
right.
Dude, why don't you wear a T-shirt? Yeah.
And then you had Michael Malley wearing tracksuits. It was so fun.
Yeah, it really was. Look, I grew up watching The Price is Right when it first came on, and shows like Hollywood Squares and the original Joker's Wild and stuff like that. And everybody from Bob Eubanks to Wink Martindale to Tom Kennedy, these guys were tremendous influences, and they were excellent at hosting the game shows like they did. But what about the person that doesn't fit that norm, who still wants to do that job? It was almost like if you couldn't pull off being like a Johnny Carson, if you weren't like him, then where else could you go? And then, bam, here came Nickelodeon. I mean, Johnny Carson was the guy that I remember watching, my parents would watch, and before Jay Leno, before Jimmy Fallon, and yet that wasn't my personality. He did the job brilliantly, and it fit his personality. What if I thought one day, man, I'd like to do a job like that, but yet I didn't have that personality? And that was what's so awesome about Nickelodeon. You could be who you naturally were without any question, without any judgment, and there was a place for you. And even think about the people that I just named as what I call the 5 game show hosts. None of us are alike. I'm not like Mike. Mike's not like Mark. Mark's not like Kurt. Kurt's not like Summer. And we all found a home right there at Nickelodeon.
And I think that was the beauty of the Nickelodeon game shows, because every single one of them was unique in its way. Like, you knew what Double Dare was compared to Legend of Hidden Temple. Like, it was completely different. There was not one thing that was basically similar to each other.
Nothing. About the only thing that even came close with some shows was maybe the question. But, you know, a question is a question. But other than that, there's not one single thing that was even remotely similar.
Now, you mentioned a lot of my idols, Bob Eubanks, Tom Kennedy, Wink Martindale, who I've had on the show, actually, Wink Martindale. And then you were saying about Johnny Carson. Now, I know that you started in stand-up comedy, but growing up watching these game shows, did you think that maybe one day I'd love to host a television show or a game show in particular?
That is the craziest thing about life. The answer is no. Absolutely not. I was the last person to believe that I was doing what it was that I was doing. I thought I was going to do everything, quote unquote, by the book. You know, I graduated high school, and then I moved from Baltimore, where I grew up, down to Florida, and that's where I went to college. And then after college, I got a job working in corporate America, doing a nice job with benefits. I met a young lady, we got married, and, you know, I was kind of doing everything sort of by the book. And then one day, I quit my job. I lost my benefits. I lost having an annual salary to go to a stand-up club and tell jokes to drunk people for $50 on the weekdays. How does that happen? I have no idea. And it's funny because I know there's lots of people that give very encouraging stories about have a passion and follow your dream. This wasn't even a dream of mine. I never aspired to do this. However, I think my mom said it best. When I finally started doing this, she said, well, finally, you'll get paid for doing the thing I used to have to come down to the school about. You know, it was like Phil was talking again, Phil was being goofy again, Phil was cutting up again, Phil had the whole class cracking up while we were trying to do it. You know, it was like that kind of stuff, you know, and it wasn't like a bad or disrespectful kid, but I was kind of like the class clown. And all of a sudden, when I finally made that shift and started doing stuff in show business, it started out as stand-up comedy. Then what got me into TV was I started doing audience warm-up for TV shows. And the very first TV show that I did audience warm-up for was a game show. It was a game show on MTV called Remote Control.
Of course. I love Remote Control.
You remember that? Oh,
sure.
Man. It was hosted by the late Ken Ober, Colin Quinn, Adam Sandler. And it's funny because getting your start in like humble beginnings like that, people like Colin Quinn, Adam Sandler, they're Saturday Night Live alum. And they've got more money than I can spell. But yet, if we run into each other at a place somewhere, they turn around and go, yo, Phil, because we all know each other from the days when we were all kind of struggling. But that's how I got into TV, got into television, taking the stand-up that I was doing to do audience warm-ups. And Orlando was beginning their big boom to be what they were trying to call Hollywood East. And they were in the process of building the Disney MGM studios, and they were in the process of building Universal Studios. And even though the parks weren't open yet, the back lots with the sound stages were up and running. So television shows were coming there and they were taping. And that's how I fell into it. I was a local guy. I was a stand-up comic. Most audience warm-ups are. And it allowed me to get off the road and be home with my family because by the time I started doing audience warm-ups, I was now a dad. You know, I've got a toddler at home, and I didn't want to be on the road a lot. And it was an opportunity to still do stand-up and still do fun stuff. But now all of a sudden I'm doing it for TV networks. And so the rest was like a natural transition. I got an agent. You start auditioning for things. And eventually I got an audition for a little game show called Nick Arcade that no one knew how to explain to me what it was about.
Well, I want to talk about that, how you got that job, because they shot a pilot for Nick Arcade in 1991 with this guy named Neil Sherman, and it's actually online. You can actually watch it.
Hey, you guys, pause those VCRs and put down those joysticks. It's time for Nick Arcade, the show that tests your video savvy and your video game skills. Today, one lucky team will actually get to go inside a video game for a chance to win this fabulous bonus prize, a trip to Universal Studios, Florida. And now, here's the host of Nick Arcade, the best-dressed Tetris player in the free world, Neil Sherman.
Thanks, Fran! Hi, everyone, and welcome to Nick Arcade.
Neil Sherman is an awesome dude. He was a producer of Nickelodeon. He was out in New York City. And right now, if you really want to check out who Neil Sherman is, he is the head of Paramount Studios Digital. He is the guy who was like the head of that whole entire thing. But the funny thing about Neil was, he was the perfect producer to stand in for me. And it's funny, I'm glad you said it like that, too, because one of the things I have to clarify people when they go, hey, man, did you know somebody else did the show before you? And I'll go, you don't know TV. Television shows shoot a pilot. That's how they sell the show. Sometimes the pilot is shot before they've even chosen the stars or picked the cast or anything. They want to get an example in to show the bigwigs, and then the bigwigs can see what a full episode would look like, and then they can make a decision on whether or not to buy an entire series of it. And so what they did was, instead of hiring somebody and the show might not be a go, they used one of their own. And Neil had that personality and that energy. It was like watching a me. He was like a brother from another mother. And if he wanted to, he could have very easily said, why don't you guys let me host the show? But Neil's was much more into creating shows, which is why he does what he does now, which is why he did what he did back in the day. But yeah, Neil's, man, he's a cool dude. Like I said, he's head of Paramount Digital right now.
Did he find you to get the job?
No, Neil didn't find me. The network did just like what any other network does. They contact all the agencies across the country, wherever they feel that people can come in. I know they audition people in New York. I know they audition people in Los Angeles. And then they put out a casting call for people in Central Florida. And I think some people from Miami auditioned too. But that's how they did it. And we all went in with hopes and dreams and tried to do our best. They gave us a couple of pages of some of the lines, and everything was still rough. Let me tell you how early they shot that pilot. Remember, shooting the pilot is to get the green light to do the show. And if you notice, the actual set that they're on is actually the set to get the picture.
Right.
That was the show that Mike O'Malley hosted before Gut. You don't put any money, build sets, and hire people when you don't even know if they're going to say, okay, you can do this show. But they had it written up. And the guys that created the show designed a couple of test games to do for mock runs. And I think that they actually did hire a couple of kids to be the test kids. Like, they didn't have people come in and work for free. They actually paid some kids to be the contestants. And they were real kids. They weren't given any advanced answers or anything, but they were given sort of like a run-through of what the show was about to get them up to speed, because, of course, nobody's ever seen it. And even then, I think the show still changed from the original pilot to what it eventually became. But that's natural. Every show does it. Working with what they had, working with the fact that they were repurposing another set, and they were using a guy who wasn't a host. I think they did a really great job of selling the concept, because it is a great concept. And we have enjoyed it for the last 25 years.
And I hope 25 more. Now, I want to ask you, did you ever get a chance to play some of the games featured on the show, whether it be the video challenge games or having the opportunity to play the video zone?
Yes, but not as much as you might think. It was the first television job as a host in front of the camera that I ever had. So just think for a minute, everybody listening, about the first paying job you ever had. there was so much you had to learn. There was so much you had to remember. There were things that you had to study. And so because of that, once we started shooting the show, we would shoot 4 shows a day. Think about that. 4 shows a day. It wasn't like just learning what we have to do tomorrow and then, okay, that was good. Let's come and do another one again tomorrow. Imagine having final exams 5 days a week. It was like 4 shows. I had to learn everything that was different about 4 different episodes 5 days a week. So I didn't really play games a lot because technically speaking, dude, I had a whole lot of homework every single day. But now, let me tell you when it got good, because there is a happy ending to this question. By the time I got to season 2, oh man, I knew what I was doing. Season 1, I had the hardest time remembering points, puzzles, pop quizzes, and prizes. By the time I got to season 2, I could say it in my sleep. You know?
Points, puzzles, pop quizzes, and prizes.
One of the biggest things I cringe at is the fact that I always mispronounce Dr. Robotnik in Sonic the Hedgehog. But you know what? By the time we got to season 2, I knew Dr. Robotnik like we were buddies. So a lot of the time and energy that I devoted to learning how to do the show while I was doing the show, a lot of that I didn't have to devote any time to by the time we got to season 2. Dude, that's when it got good. Because once the show aired, every video manufacturer in the world was kissing our butt trying to get us to put their game on our show. I would come home and the FedEx man would ring the doorbell. He'd come in with boxes and boxes of consoles and games, his prototype games that aren't out yet. But we were thinking if you put it on the show, that's how Sonic the Hedgehog 2 got on Nick Arcade. It actually was on before you could buy it in the store. It was a prototype. And we literally were the test marketing for it. If the audience got excited about seeing on TV, then it was going to help Sega influence them as to whether or not they should put out a sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog. It was like really cool, man. It was like Christmas every single day. He's coming home, you know, there's a new box with a new something in there, my name on it.
Now, do you think a today version of Nick Arcade would fit in Nickelodeon? Because it is a completely different network now than it was in the 90s. To be honest, I'm a little disappointed at what Nickelodeon has turned into and some of the games that they now put on. But do you think that Nickelodeon would be receptive of a Nick Arcade, seeing what the network is now?
I think that they are open and receptive. I know personally, and Carl, one of the guys there, friend, who is part of Nickelodeon's current development. And when it comes to the world of games and game shows, this guy, along with a couple others, are bigger game show fanatics than you and I put together. So I don't think that it actually would fit Nickelodeon now, but I also think that there are people in place who could champion our cause and more effectively convince the network to give it a try. Because let's face it, look, I didn't think Nickelodeon was the right fit for Ren and Stimpy. I mean, there was a lot of crazy stuff that was on Nickelodeon, but Ren and Stimpy was more like an Adult Swim show before Adult Swim existed. And yet, they made it work. Somebody was able to go, but look, give it a try. Basically, the idea was, if it fails, we just cancel it. Big deal. No harm, no foul. So do I think it fits now? No. But do I think there are people at Nickelodeon right now who would be receptive? Yes. Because even today, there's still some really talented and creative people there. And sometimes, just like I was saying before about people coming together and giving that push in one voice to say, we want this, sometimes all we need, meaning myself and maybe some studio execs, is something that we can hold up and say as proof. See, they really want this. Like I said, I can't do it alone. Can't do it with 2 other guys. And it never has been done that way. It's always been done by the collective coming together. And if Nick Arcade happens to come on the radar of reboot-itis, then hey, boom, our job is done. But if it doesn't, there are people that are there who would be receptive. So that's the cool thing. It is different now, but there are still some amazingly talented, creative people still there doing their thing, trying to put on the best programming ever. And I think that if they had a little support or they could walk in with some sort of evidence, they would be just all out championing the cause to bring it back.
Well, I agree. If you look at all these classic Nickelodeon game shows and you think of it, one of them is these crazy families running around an obstacle course getting slimed. One of them is this big giant talking stone and this wild temple. One of them is running around a house and rummaging through things. And Nick Arcade is literally kids playing video games before, the YouTube craze now of kids watching video games.
Well, let's figure it out. And how about this? Let's put the kid as the main protagonist of the show. What? We had Summer Sanders there, but the action that happened on Figure It Out was because of the kid who was there who did the special thing, whatever the thing was that we had to figure out. I mean, who does that? Who stops and says, yeah, we've got a grown-up as a host that knows how to do a great job. We've got celebrities who are professionals that know how to be fun and entertaining, but in order to do the show, we're going to put a nobody that no one has ever heard of. And when I say nobody, I don't mean like they're nothing. I mean like they're not known nationwide as being a celebrity or something. But that's who we're going to put as the catalyst that motivates what happens next. Who does that? Crazy cool 90s Nickelodeon, that's who.
Speaking of Figure It Out, what was it like sitting on a panel that consisted of such goofy and fun-loving people like Danny Tamborelli and Lori Beth Dinberg? And what was it like being slimed?
You know what? Honestly, only embrace your bubble, but it was just another day because they're all big celebrities to you, and you're like on and on. But these were people that I saw every day. These are people that I would have lunch with. These are people that we go out and ride rides at Universal with. So whether I'm sitting beside them at the lunchroom table or I was sitting beside them on the set of Figure It Out, it was just another day hanging with some really cool kids. And being slimed, dude, every live show I've ever done, from the Nickelodeon Big Help to the Nick Takes Over Your Schools, every single one of us has been slimed a million times before we ever got on Figure It Out. For a while, they used to have Nickelodeon attractions at various theme parks. I remember Paramount had the Nickelodeon Splat City or something, and, they would have these grand openings, and we'd go there and do like a little mini show, and it always ended up with everybody being slimed. So being slimed, dude, it's a fun feeling. Here's the best part about it. It's delicious. Slime back in the day was applesauce, vanilla pudding, and green food coloring. And everything that could get in a kid's mouth had to be edible so that they wouldn't be harmed. So even though it looked gross and thick and disgusting, every ugly chunk that you saw in slime and made you give gag reflex, it's really delicious applesauce mixed in with vanilla pudding. Once you add green food coloring, oh my gosh, it looked so toxic. But it was delicious. That's why Danny Tamborelli would always stick his head up and welcome it. Because slime back then was actually very tasty. So it was always fun to get slime. If you were sitting there and figure it out and the show was running wrong and your stomach was growling, man, I hope I get slimed.
I think you just answered a question that a lot of people have been wondering for years. What is the slime made of? Now, I knew that because I'm such a big fan of these shows. Not to brag, but I did know that.
Very cool. Wait for you.
But, a lot of people probably ask, what is the slime made of? And now you heard it right here on the game show. Slime is made of applesauce, vanilla pudding, and green food coloring.
Right. Now, I understand that from what I've been told, the recipe has changed now, but it's still something that is edible, but it's not just pure organic stuff you could buy at the store. And the cool thing about it was, outside of Nickelodeon, I had a personal life. And when you are a personality on Nickelodeon, you'd have friends that are my real cool buddies, my real close friends, and they have kids. And every now and then you get somebody going, hey, listen, it's my kid's birthday, or we're having a thing at church, or it's my kid's bar mitzvah, or, oh my gosh, my daughter's having a quinceañera. And it would always go, could you do a little something there? And you could literally run to a Walmart, buy a few items, and put on a 30-minute little Wild and Crazy Kids What Would You Do show right there. Just with stuff you could buy from Walmart. And the fact that we knew how to make slime, that always made the day. People were like, you actually brought slime with you? And, we'd smile and say, yeah, but honestly, no, I just made it in your mom's kitchen about 30 minutes ago.
The slime does look different today than it did from way back when.
Yeah, it's a different recipe, but it's still stuff that's edible, and it always has to be. That's always one big thing that Nickelodeon is really cautious about. Never on their watch would he ever want a kid to ever get hurt for any reason over anything. So they were real careful about that. And like I said, slime was edible. Slime was delicious. 90s slime was delicious. And by the way, the recipe for it is 2 parts pudding to 1 part applesauce. I did a friend's quinceañera. She's got like 200 guests or something. I would go get 2 of the big cans of vanilla pudding and then like 1 of the biggest jars of applesauce. So whatever amount that you make, whether it's a big amount or a small amount, it's 2 parts to 1 part. 2 parts pudding, 1 part applesauce, and then some food coloring. And you just add it and keep stirring it until it looks the right color. And you will know when it's the right color. I can't tell you exactly how many drops of food coloring to put in, but drop some in and stir. No, not quite. Drop some more in and stir. Almost there. And then you have like a Goldilocks and the 3 Bears moment. This one's just right.
Guess who's going to the store tomorrow to get vanilla pudding, applesauce, and green food coloring?
Yeah, buddy.
So you just taught some of, if not most of, the listeners what the famous Nickelodeon slime was made of back in the 90s. But now can you tell the listeners another fun Nickelodeon fact? Because a well-known face was a contestant on Nick Arcade before he became a celebrity. And I bet you know who I'm referring to.
As a matter of fact, I just flew back from working with him. Joey Fatone from NSYNC was actually a contestant on Nick Arcade when he was 15 years old.
All right, great job, Yellow Team, squeezing it at the last second to win the face-off. Hey, let's meet today's players. Starting off with the Yellow Team, we have Joseph and Danielle. Say hey. All right, now, Joseph, I understand you like to sing and you like to act. Do you, like, sing around in the shower or in a choir or something?
Yeah, school and everything.
School and everything, and the shower, too. Well, welcome to the show.
Let me tell you something. I just worked with him. I'm shooting a new show that I'm hosting, which I really can't talk too much about, but I think it's a dream show to work on because being a guy who's from the 90s, who had a show about video games, now I have a chance to sit down with other people who got their start in the 90s, and we kind of talk about what it was like. And so I just shot an episode of this show. It's called Playing Around with Fillmore, and I actually got to learn some stuff because with all of the convention appearances that I make, the game expos that I make appearances at, and even interview shows like yours, I'm asked a lot of questions, obviously. And there's some questions that I have absolutely no answer to because, as I've been saying, it wasn't part of my job and I had way too much to be concerned with. I didn't find out about. So for the first time, I actually got to hear from a contestant how they picked the contestants and what they put the contestants through. I get asked that all the time, and I'm like, I don't know. I show up to work. First of all, somebody comes to my house at like 9 o'clock at night and drops off 4 packages. And each package is for the 4 shows we're going to do that day. I'm going over what the puzzles are going to be. I'm familiarizing myself with the questions. I'm taking a look at the video zone and learning what to say and how it runs and all this stuff. I'm doing all of this stuff. And when I show up to work the next morning, the first thing I do is I go into hair, makeup, and wardrobe, change my clothes, and to get my hair trimmed up right. Then I meet the contestants about 15 minutes before we start the show. So I don't know what it took to get a contestant. So I got to talk to Joey Fatone for about 2 hours yesterday filming this new show. And I got all the scoop, man, about what it was like. So now I can actually answer the question about what is it like to be on the show. And oh my gosh, what is it like to lose on Nick Arcade? Because Joey Fatone lost. Aww. And oh my gosh, I told him jokingly, I said, dude, you're going to need therapy. He goes, I know, I haven't gotten over it yet.
So now Nickelodeon, here's another reason why you should bring back Nick Arcade. You can let Joey Fatone come back on the show and redeem himself.
It's like Tosh.0 Red Redemption. That's what it's like.
Right. That would be so cool to have new Nick Arcade. Joey Fatone was on when he was 15 years old. Who knew that he was going to be part of one of the biggest boy bands in history? And now that he's had all this fame and success in not only singing but television, you could have him on Nick Arcade living out his dream of coming back on the show and actually winning.
Even if he doesn't win, get to the video zone. Because he said that even if he had got to go in the video zone and they lost, he would have been happy because he would have gotten to go into the video zone. But he lost in the upfront game, so the other team was the one that went to the video zone. But I got to tell you, when we were shooting this show that I was doing with them, because of that, even though it wasn't Nick Arcade, we actually did some VR zombie shooting together. So he and I put on the whole VR gear, the helmet, the headphones, the microphone, and our little VR guns. And we went in and we played together in a virtual video world. What I said to him was, you didn't make it to the video zone on Nick Arcade, but how about this? You get to play in a video zone with me. And he was like, dude, let's do it.
And it's so so interesting that virtual reality is such a big thing now, because Nick Arcade with the Video Zone, that was the 90s version of virtual reality, and you had to get on the show and get in the Video Zone to do this. But now you can go out to the electronics store and buy a virtual reality set.
Right, and that's the thing. I got to give big props right now to Nick Arcade fans, because Nick Arcade fans, man, you guys are really smart because they recognize that. They probably stop and go, okay, yeah, I can do all this stuff. I've got the latest and greatest stuff. I've got the new hotness. But, oh, my gosh, they were able to pull that off back in 1991 and 1992. And people recognize, yeah, it was, as they say, state of the art. It was before its time. And it's the kind of thing that shouldn't have worked because technology wasn't sophisticated enough back then, and yet, somehow, it did.
And that is the beauty of Nick Arcade and Nickelodeon.
Way ahead of its time, man. Way ahead of its time. And I appreciate the fans recognize that. Not for me, because, look, all I did was step in front of the podium and try to remember what the rules were. But for the hours and hours that it took creative men and women to come up with the idea and then rig it all together and then make it work 4 times for a half an hour every day. That's almost like going to the moon back in 1991. Nowadays, it's nothing. But to pull that off back then, I mean, think about how, like you said, how easy it is to just go to the store and get your little thing and do it. Now, imagine trying to do that in a world where there's not even cell phones. In a world in which laptops are so big, there's no Wi-Fi. If you actually want to go online, you have to plug your computer into your telephone line, and then it takes you about 30 minutes to boot up just to send an email. Forget about watching a video. That would take you 2 days to download. But yet being able to pull off the same virtual reality kind of stuff that you experience now, but somehow they were able to pull it off in 1991 and 1992. Like I said, I got nothing but mad love, respect for the men and women that brought Nick Arcade to life every day. Because like I said, I had 1,000 things I had to do, but none of it involved making that machine come to life.
It's very true, and you had to focus on making sure that you have good rhymes and good little tunes when you walk back to the podium.
You know what? That was the one thing I never thought about. Just me personally, growing up as a kid, look, before the word remix became a thing that we all know, I used to call myself the remix king when I was like in high school. I could take any song and change the words. I was doing like the Whose Line Is It Anyway stuff before Whose Line Is It Anyway existed. I would take a song and twist the words to it and make a song parody. Like Weird Al Yankovic was doing that kind of stuff back then, like in the 80s. That's what I was doing just on the regular. And the reason why I did that on the show was we did from time to time have technical problems on the show in which we'd have to stop taping. The audience warm-up person would go out and entertain the audience so they wouldn't get restless while the staff and crew tried to fix whatever the problem was. And one day it was a long hold. Like long for me is anything that's more than 10 minutes. Because when you have a studio full of children, they start to get restless. So to help the audience warm-up guy, help keep them entertained, I went out there too. I'm like, well, you know what? Let me go out there and have fun with them. And, of course, they're always like that. You know, you can go and talk to them and stuff. So we're out there doing that. And then all of a sudden, somebody in the control room, I guess they thought they were helping us out, but they started playing the theme song to Nick Arcade on what I call the eternal loop. Because it was like, and it just kept going over and over and over, and it became like the thing that wouldn't shut up after a while. So when we finally got to shooting again, we got the all clear, we're going to go back now, the problem is fixed. That song was so stuck in my head that when Video Challenge came up, I went, oh my gosh, the song again. And I actually started being sarcastic by making up words about, oh my gosh, it's this freaking song again. I didn't say that, but you know, that was the attitude behind it. But people liked it so much that it was like, can you do that again? I'm like, what? Like, do the song again. I'm like, no, that's just me kind of like giving you the finger, man. That's all. I'm just talking to the guys in the control room. He goes, yeah, I understand that. It was really funny. It was so funny. We want you to keep doing it. Could you? I'm like, could I? I could make up remixes in my sleep. And so that's how it became a thing.
You were a trendsetter in so many ways.
There was hip-hop, and then there was Phil-hop.
That's good. You should trademark that. Make T-shirts.
It was fun, though. It is just like my little quirk thing that I do. Anybody that knows me personally knows that that's what I did. My ex-wife and my son will tell you when he was a little kid, yes, there'd be a song on TV, and then Dad would change the words to it and make it something goofy.
Well, I always say that goofy is always sometimes the way to go. Straight face, boring.
Boring!
Exactly. And the reason why I do this show is because I love the game show genre, and I don't like to be boring. And I think games and talking about games is so interesting to me, and I hope the listening audience feels that way as well.
Yeah, it is. And the thing that I'm really happy about and very appreciative to every 90s fan, every Nickelodeon fan, and especially every Nick Arcade fan, you know, for every show that people remember and like and have fond memories of and go, that was my childhood, there's a whole bunch of shows that you probably know about that no one kind of really talks about. So it really is special somehow have ended up in the pile that people remember and remember fondly. Even the stuff that I kind of look at and go, well, that was just goofy. Yeah, it was, but it was the right kind of goofy. But I also could have ended up on that other side with so many shows who you and I don't remember until somebody brings it up and go, oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I did see that show. But yet your brain doesn't remember. It doesn't instantly go, oh, that show was my thing. And you don't think about it. You don't look it up on YouTube. Yet you do know it existed. You watched it. So I'm just humbled, man, beyond belief to be in that category. And that's why when I first started going out, making these appearances at cons and things, I've only been doing it for a couple of years. And people would ask, hey, man, the All That reunion was here. Pete and Pete were here. How come you never come out? And I was like, I didn't know that people cared. I didn't know that anybody remembered the show until the first time I did one and realized, oh, my gosh, I don't know how this fun little video game show from the 90s stayed at the top of people's memories, but I really appreciate it. I really do.
Well, don't worry. When someone says to me, do you remember Nick Arcade or did you watch Nick Arcade? I say, that was my show. I love that show. I could not get enough of it.
Thank you, man. I've discovered that there are a lot of people out there like you. I had no idea. I was enjoying my life out in California, producing a whole bunch of TV shows, working behind the scenes. Hey, here's a little bit of trivia you may or may not know. People wondered, like, so am I no longer a gamer? But I was a producer of Attack of the Show and X-Play on G4. I was still doing video game stuff, but I was producing shows behind the scenes. I could not get away from it. I wasn't doing it in front of an audience, but man, oh man, I was still having fun doing the video game thing.
Well, speaking of fun and speaking of games, we've come to my favorite part of the game show. Now, it's even more special when I have a game show host on the line with me because I get to practice my hosting skills with them.
Okay.
So it is time to play the game of the day.
Game of the day.
And today, you may have not seen him in a while, but right here on the game show, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back, Mikey.
Dun, 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 dun. Here is Mikey, and he's had a bit.
He's grown up. He's grown up.
There's a thing on YouTube where somebody, I guess, that does computer animation, there's this thing as if Mikey was a WWE wrestler. It was the funniest thing ever. They totally did a full CGI render of Mikey walking out WWE style, jumping into the ring, standing up on the ropes. Because somebody asked me, hey, Phil, what do you think Mikey's doing today? And I went, Mikey's a WWE All-Star. And I sent them the link. It's hilarious.
That is so funny. Well, for today, he hung up the spandex, and he did a little bit of a trim so he could be here today. Okay. Because it is time to play Mikey's Mission. Mikey's Mission.
Ta-da!
So Mikey and you are reunited right here on the game show. He doesn't like to talk a lot, as you know, on camera, but he does say hi and he wishes you the best of luck in this game. He wants you to win.
Thanks, Mikey.
So here's how we play Mikey's Mission. Just like if you are a contestant on Nick Arcade, you're going to move our main man Mikey around in hopes of earning as many points as possible. There are 2 rounds in this game, and for both rounds, I will have 9 spaces in front of me. Behind 5 of the spaces are pop quiz questions. Behind 2 of the spaces are bonus points, and behind 2 of the spaces are the enemy.
Dun, dun, dun!
You'll say a number, and Mikey will move to that space. Now, if it's a pop quiz space, A correct answer will earn you points. If it's a bonus point space, your score will automatically increase right then and there. But if it's the enemy, you lose all the points accumulated up until that point.
All right. But here's the deal. If it's a pop quiz, you've got to say pop quiz and go, you've got to do it. You stick your finger in it by the corner of your mouth and you blow up your cheek and you go, pop quiz.
Pop quiz? Oh, I can't do it.
Okay, you can skip the pop.
You could do it for me.
All right, cool.
Now, at any point during either round, if you're afraid of finding the enemy and want to protect the points you have earned so far, you can go straight to the goal, where the points will be banked and you'll be asked one final question to earn some more points for that round. However, once you say you want to go to the goal and you answer the goal question, the round is over and any possible points left behind on the other spaces will be forfeited. Now, in either round, if you hit both enemy spaces, after Mikey experiences the enemy for a second time, you will at that point automatically be sent to the goal. But you still have a chance to earn some points for the round with a correct answer to the goal question.
Okay.
In round 1, pop quiz and bonus point spaces are worth 25 points, and the goal is worth 50 points. And in round 2, everything doubles, so 50 points for pop quiz and bonus point spaces, and 100 points for the goal. Now, Phil, to win and to complete Mikey's mission, by the end of the second round, you must accumulate 200 points or more.
Okay.
Alrighty, if you're ready to play, let's play Mikey's mission. Alrighty, so we're going to start with round 1. Now, both rounds will feature classic Nick Arcade enemies and a specific question category. So in round 1, the enemy is that sleazy swashbuckler Blackboard the Pirate.
Walk the plank, you scallywag!
Blackboard, I would do the voice like this because he's a pirate.
And all the questions are going to be about classic video games.
Okay.
1 through 9, where do you want Mikey to go first?
Let's let Mikey go to number 7.
Number 7, and all the points in this round, 25 points for a correct question, 50 points for the goal, and the bonus points are 25 as well. Number 7, pop quiz. There you go. All right, this is for 25 points. Here comes the question. What was the name of the Frogger sequel video game released by Parker Brothers in 1984? Is it A, Frogger 2 Crazy Crossing, B, Frogger 2 3 Deep, that's the number 3 and then the word deep, or C, Frogger 2 Waterlogged?
I'm going to say Frogger 2 Crazy Crossing.
Unfortunately, it was Frogger 2 3 Deep. It was B.
3 Deep.
That's
okay.
a tough one.
Not just 3 deep. She was totally deep when she did the freak with me. Sorry.
No, that's your trademark. You do whatever song
there
you want.
Go.
No harm, no foul. You didn't have any points anyway, but you still get to go again since you didn't hit the enemy, so...
That's right. I didn't lose anything. Right. Okay. Let's move Mikey to number 3.
Number 3... 25 bonus points.
Ding, 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 ding. Make it rain, baby. Cash money. All right. Let's move Mikey now to number 1.
Number 1. Let's see what we get here. Pop quiz. Here we go. For 25 more points, here comes the question. Which of these is not one of the nicknames of the 4 ghosts featured in the classic arcade game Pac-Man? A, Kinky, B, Inky, C, Pinky. So which one is not one of the nicknames of the 4 ghosts in the classic game Pac-Man? Kinky, Inky, or Pinky?
Let's do it this way. I know the 4 ghosts are Blinky, Pinky, Clyde, and Inky. So whatever you said, that's not that.
So A, Kinky?
Kinky, that's it. Because I know who the 4 are. They're like close personal friends of mine. Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde. So it's not Kinky.
You're right, it's not Kinky. You got it.
Ding, 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 ding. I got 50 big old points.
That's right, you got 50 big old points. Now, of course, you can stop at any time and go straight to the goal if you want, because if you hit the enemy, then you lose the points up to that point. So if you want to stop with the 50, or we can go on.
No, let's move you to number 8.
Number 8. Mikey's going from number 1 all the way to number 8. And it's another pop quiz.
Hey, hey. Da-da-da-da.
Here comes your question for 25 points. What color is the classic video game character Q*bert? Is it A, green, B, orange, or C, yellow?
Hubert, green, orange, or yellow? Okay, this is a bad question for me because I sort of have a problem with colors. Hubert, to me, always looked orange. I just want to go with orange. Nickelodeon orange. Orange for Nickelodeon.
Well, you said colors sometimes give you a little bit of a struggle.
Right.
But you didn't struggle here. Orange is the correct answer.
Yes! All right, thank you, eyeballs, for not whacking out on me this time.
You're up to 75 points in this round. Remember, if you hit the enemy, you lose those points. I don't know what you want to do.
I think right now, since I've got a nice amount of points there, let's get Mikey straight to the goal.
All righty, let's go straight to the goal. Now, the goal, of course, is worth double what the questions are, so this is a 50-point goal question.
Oh, dang, all right.
And you have the 75 points from this round no matter what, so those are safe.
Okay, good. So I don't lose 75 points if I get it wrong.
Right, you don't lose the 75 points. This is only good news. Here comes your goal question. The classic game Tetris was originally designed and programmed by a game designer from what country?
Russia, USSR, whatever it was called back then.
Well, you didn't even need the choices. The choices were Russia, Norway, the United States. Russia is the correct answer. You have the goal.
Thank you very much. Yay! That person couldn't have gotten that question wrong because all of the design background were Russian design of buildings. And then the song itself, that's a vodka drinking, smash the bottle song if I ever heard one myself.
You should be a Tetris historian.
I should. Oh, that's another thing that I really dig. There's a lot of artists now who go around and they perform live video game music. Some of them do it exactly like the song. Some of them add their own little funk or their own little rock to it. And there's even concerts. We have like a symphony orchestra give a symphony to music from Zelda. I love it all, man. This whole video game music craze thing. Oh, my gosh, that is so my jam, man. I love. I actually have video game music on my iPhone that I listen to in the car.
Well, I've been known to jam out to the Nick Arcade theme song.
Well, you know my favorite of all time on the planet Nickelodeon theme song is?
Which one?
The theme to Guts.
Do you have it? Do you have it? Do you have it?
It's already cool, but here's the thing. It's not the song that's at the beginning of the show. And, of course, being in the studio and having worked there, I could actually go into the audio room and have one of the engineers there play the entire file. Because, I mean, the whole song is like 4 minutes long. And they take certain portions of it and play it at different times in the show. But there's a portion of the entire long song that comes toward the end where it's what I call drums and grunts. No singing. It's like, and it's got the little bongos in it, and it's got it's just drums and grunts. That is my part, man. When I was like, you just play the drums and grunts part, please. It would fast forward to it. It almost sounds like a high school marching band. The only other thing that's different than the drums and grunts is when it goes to that, the theme of Gus, man. Look, back when I lived in Florida and was making that Nickelodeon, Nick Arcade money, I was driving a brand new Firebird, dark tinted windows. I would cruise down I-4, pumping some guts in the car, man.
Guts. I can tell why you were called Remix Phil.
Yeah, buddy.
So you have 125 points after the first round. You need 200 to win, and we're going on to round 2. Now, for this round, Phil, you'll be trying to avoid getting Mikey pied by the neighborhood bully. Game over.
Hold it right there, Bean Brain.
Oh, I remember Game Over.
And all of the questions will be about classic Nickelodeon game shows, which I'm sure you know a thing or two about.
Oh, my gosh, I think I know a thing or two.
Now, of course, everything doubles around to 50 points for the bonus spaces and the correct answers to the pop quiz, 100 points for the goal, and you only need 75 points to win, so you are in great shape.
So basically, I could skip all of this and just go to the goal right now if I wanted.
You could, but let's move Mikey at least one space, all right?
All right, let's have a little fun. All right, let's move Mikey to number 6.
Number
Move
6.
Mikey to 6.
Mikey's moving to number 6. And it's 50 bonus points. That means you now have 175 points. And you are just 25 points away from completing Mikey's mission.
Whoa, okay, we're almost game over without having to go to the goal.
That's right.
Wow.
So let's break this down strategically. You can go to another one. Maybe you'll get another 50-point square, and you'd win.
Right.
And even if you lose the 50 points, you still get to go to the goal, and that's a 100-point question.
Right. I think what I want to do strategic-wise is let's see if I can just end this with just another question so I don't have to do the whole goal thing. And if I blow it, still got the goal thing. All right. So here's what I want to do. Oh, thank heaven, lucky number 7.
Number 7. Let's see what it is. 50 bonus points. You have won Mikey's mission.
Game over. Woo! That's how you do it. Yeah. High five him, Mikey. Yeah.
Just for fun, let's go to the goal and see if you would have got the question right.
Okay.
Here was the goal question. Which of these is the name of an actual Nickelodeon game show? Is it A, Think Quick, B, Think Speedy, or C, Think Fast?
Think fast.
Well, you thought fast, and Think Fast is the correct answer. For 100 points, you've just got the goal.
Woo! I spoke fast. That was really good. Think Fast was actually before my time. I wasn't even working at Nickelodeon when they were doing Think Fast.
You can find the matching pairs, then you've got what it takes to win cash and prizes worth over $2,500. But watch out, because somewhere inside lurks the ever-smelly red herring. Today on the gold team, it's Tangela and Keith. And on the blue team, Tiffany and Bo. They're here to play Think Fast, the game where the more cents you have, the more dollars you win. And now, here's the host of Think Fast, Skip Lucky.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Think Fast. Audience, how we doing out there?
Well, you do it. That's all that matters.
That's it. All right, yay! I got bar points, and I got bragging right. Yay.
That's right. 325 points. And let's give Mikey a round of applause. He did the moving.
Thank you so much for showing up, Mikey. I'm glad that rehab is doing you well, pal.
That's right. We'll see Mikey in the wrestling room.
That's right.
Well, Phil, thanks for playing Mikey's Mission. Mikey's Mission.
Hey, well, thank you for having such a cool game and putting the shoe on the other foot for a change.
That's right. That's what I love to do. I love to practice my skills and give sometimes the host the chance to play because, you always see them behind the podium, but you never see them playing, so I love to do that.
Yeah, well, look, I had a blast, man. It was a great time, man. And I won, so you know what? It's nothing but a party.
Well, Phil, I truly want to thank you very much for spending some time with me today to talk about Nick Arcade right here on the game show.
Oh, well, thank you so much for wanting to have me on. I've said it a few times, but I seriously mean it. I big, major thanks to all the 90s fans, all the 90s kids, the Nickelodeon fans, and, of course, the Nick Arcade fans. You literally are the best on the planet. 25 years, and I appreciate the fact that you're still here, and I'm glad I'm here to talk about the good old times and back in the day.
That's right, and you are always welcome back as my guest on the game show. I'd love to have you back on to talk some more, play another game, whatever you'd like to talk about or play.
Anytime, man. And listen, as I get closer to launching this new show, I will be sure to let you know ahead of time and give you a heads up advance on what this is all about.
That would be great.
So far, my guests have been Joey Fatone. I had on another episode Mark Summers. I put him in the hot seat. And Dante Bosco, who played Rufio from the movie Hook.
Rufio! Rufio! Rufio!
We're bringing back the 90s in a big way, but we're talking to them right now. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That is super. Thank you very much.
Listen, thank you so much, Bradley. It was a lot of fun, man. You're a great host. All continued success on the show, man.
Well, that truly means a lot, Phil. I really appreciate you telling me that.
I had a lot of fun. Look, listen, we do these all the time. And sometimes it's worked for us because we're trying to stay positive. We're trying to stay up because it's boring or it's dull or it's whatever. But this was natural. It's fun. I had a blast, man. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It has been such a pleasure, and I can't wait to hopefully have you on the show again.
You got it, man. Looking forward to it. All right?
All right. Take care, Phil.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, it looks like it's game over for this episode of The Game Show. My thanks once again to Nick Arcade host Phil Moore for being my guest today. Now, Nick Arcade was all about watching kids play the coolest video games the early 90s had to offer. But if you're in the mood to listen to game show personalities play the coolest game of the days the late 2010s have to offer, check out my previous Game of the Day segments and full episodes of The Game Show by logging on to www.soundcloud.com/Bradley_Clarke, that's BRADLEY_CLARKE/sets/The Game Show. That's www.soundcloud.com/Bradley_Clarke, that's BRADLEY_CLARKE/sets/The Game Show. And the best part is, you don't even have to put a quarter in to play any of the game segments or episodes. You can't say that about Pac-Man or Donkey Kong, now can you? Plus, don't forget to like The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on Facebook and follow The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on Twitter using the handle @TheGameShowBC and #TheGameShow. But of course, be sure to tune in next time for another exciting episode of The Talk Show, all about the world of television game and competition shows, The Game Show. I'm Bradley Clarke, the Bradster, and I've got to go take down Murloc in the video zone. Bye for now.
This edition of The Game Show was created and produced by Bradley Clarke and was recorded at the WRHU studios. This is Austin Angelo speaking.
The Game Show is a Bradley Clarke production. Get your game on.